Can Achak the Wendarin help you out in the Hydra? Yes. What is going on, Raider? Soda Dragon here, and today I'm going to highlight a character I don't think I've seen anybody use against the Hydra, Achak the Wendarin. But the thing is, he's actually pretty good. So Achak has gotten a lot of attention in other areas of Rave, but not against the Hydra, and here's why. We all know how important doing damage is against the Hydra, but in particular in this rotation, we know how important having HP burn is against that poison cloud. So unless you have HP burn up against those Hydra heads with poison cloud, all your hits are going to be weak hits, and therefore the majority of your debuffs will not be transferred over to those Hydra heads. Yes, there are champs with special abilities that can land debuffs on weak hits, but those are the exceptions. So can Achak land HP burns? Yes, he can, but unfortunately, he can only land HP burns against Hydra heads whose defense is higher than their attack. This means Achak with that A3 will only land that HP burn against the Head of Suffering, who is not even a starter head in this rotation. So at best, 1 out of 6 heads Achak can land his HP burn on. Doesn't sound too impressive, right? But wait a second, what if you have other champs with HP burn? What else can Achak bring to the table? Well, he has this really cool passive here, Twisted Hunger, so whenever an enemy with an HP burn takes a turn, he's going to heal everybody on the team for 5% of their max HP. Think of all 4 Hydra heads with HP burn, and every time they take a turn, your team is getting healed. Think about it, it almost doesn't matter how fast those Hydra heads are, because if they're under HP burn, you just let them take their turns, and every time they do, they'll be healing up your team for big healing. So the point of this video, guys, is to give you options, and Achak is an option, a good option against the Hydra. If you combine it with HP burners like Geo, Mordecai, Ninja, whoever, all of a sudden he's turning those HP burn ticks into healing for your team. So it can really add a lot of sustain to your team. In fact, with Achak on the team, I didn't even have to bring in an attack down champ. That's how powerful that healing is. So here would be an example of a team that you can run with Achak. And the damage here, 26 million. I think the team I'm going to show you in a second can do 1 or 2 key hard. But the big thing here is not necessarily damage. Look at the turn count, 151. That is a ridiculous turn count. At this point, the head devouring is going to devour your champs in 2 turns every single time. So it's really crazy, but that's how much sustain you can get with Achak on your team. Turn 151. And as I mentioned, no decreased attack champ, even with the Head of Wrath popping up all the time. Achak can see you through it. So the point here, guys, is if you have a maxed out Achak, give him a shot. Try to fit him in your team composition if you need extra healing, in particular against that Head of Wrath. Trust me, he's really good. Plus, he does have buffs as well. He does have that strengthen buff and that block debuffs buff. Now, make sure you use that when the Head of Mischief isn't going to steal it. So, for example, if the Head of Mischief has a block buffs debuff on, or a decreased accuracy debuff on, or if the Head of Mischief is just out of the rotation, that'd be a perfect time if you need that extra damage mitigation to use Achak's A2 as well to kind of further mitigate the damage. But you can get massive healing as long as you can keep those HP burns up. So see if you can fit them in your teams. And as I mentioned, yes, you can use Achak's A3 to HP burn that Head of Suffering if it happens to pop up in the rotation. So that is an option. Unfortunately, you can't freeze any of the bosses, but that HP burn side of the A3, yes, you can use it in the right circumstances. And Achak's A1 here is useful as well. You can decrease the duration of 1 random buff on one of the Hydra heads if they're under HP burn. And if you're HP burning them enough, then this will come in handy. Alright guys, here's the team that I used to get to the turn count and that damage number that you saw. So this would be an example team. I'm not trying to showcase really the whole team in and of itself. I'm really just trying to showcase Achak. So we got double Geos here for the HP burn plus the reflected damage on those enemies with HP burn. So they're the main damage dealers here. And it's nice to have 2 of them just in case any one gets swallowed. If one does get swallowed, then you have the other one to apply HP burn to that head that swallowed your champ. So it's really nice to have 2 damage dealers on your team. Next up, we got Scylla the Drake. She's really nice for her healing and her revive, in particular for her revive. Now, the healing part, she does a great job, but she cannot do it on her own with the gear that I have in my account. She needs help. So either help in the form of an attack down champ, in particular for the Head of Wrath, he does so much damage, or another healer. Notice here I don't have an attack down champ. I replaced my attack down champ, which used to be Padma, for Achak here. So yes, I do think Syl, once again, from my account, needs help. So she is getting the help in healing from Achak. Ugo is here for her block buffs debuff. Really nice against that poison cloud from just preventing it, period. Plus against that head of mischief from stealing your buffs. Shamail is here to remove fears from that head of torment and to turn meter boost the leader. So here I have my geos in the 1 and 2 spot, just in case that first geo gets swallowed. All of a sudden that second geo is going to get that turn meter boost. So no matter what, one geo is going to get that turn meter boost. Starting off with our first geo here, just HP burn anybody since he's not technically landing a hit that is doing damage. He's not going to weak hit anybody, so it's up to you. Once again, we need to spread out those HP burns as much as possible to get the best benefit out of Achak's passive. That is that healing passive. So just anybody. I usually save the Head of Wrath for last just because I want him alive the longest because he's our damage dealer. Next up, Achak. So we're not going to use that A3 because the Head of Suffering is not here to hopefully HP burn. Plus, we're not going to use the A2 either, those buffs, because the Head of Mischief can steal them at this point. So we're just going to go with the A1 against the Head of Torment to proc that turn meter boost for our first geo. Ugo is up next, so we're going to use our A2, that block buffs debuff. So make sure you target a head that is not a bad affinity. Yes, it is an AoE, but it seems like if you target a bad affinity with that AoE, if you get a weak hit for that first hit, it seems like that block buffs debuff does not spread. So just target any affinity that is not a bad affinity. So here we're going to target that Head of Torment. Got it on a few hits. Second geo up, just HP burn anybody. Remember, you cannot weak hit. Did you see that healing? So some of you guys watching carefully might have seen the difference between Achak's passive healing with that HP burn plus Sill's healing from her passive. Now, Sill's heal was about twice as much as Achak. So you might be saying, well, isn't Sill of the Drakes a better healer than Achak? Remember, we only have 1 HP burn up right now. Think if we had 4 HP burns up on all of the heads, how much healing we would get. So yes, if you just compare on a 1-to-1 basis, Sill versus 1 Hydra head burning, then yes, Sill would be the better healer. But once we spread those HP burns out, Achak is going to out heal her. Next up, Sill, A1 on that Head of Torment. So further turn meter boosting our number 1 geo. Back to Geo 1, so we're going to use this A1 to spread out his decreased accuracy debuff. So same thing with Ugo's AoE. Make sure to target an affinity that is not a bad affinity. So no red affinities. So here, just target anybody. So the decreased accuracy debuff is so powerful against the Hydra. Unfortunately, we did not land it against the Head of Wrath. That's why so many of our team got provoked. But if we had, only maybe 1 or 2 would have been provoked. So definitely that's a really powerful debuff. Next up, Achak with this A1 against that Head of Torment. And we got a lot of provokes to run through. Back to Geo 1. Time for that third HP burn against the Head of Torment. Check out that healing. This is going to take forever. So that Head of Wrath did get that Vengeance buff and counterattack, but all that happened is he's just hurting his brothers. So here we have Shamail, and we're just going to A1 the Head of Torment again. Still A1 Head of Torment. Geo A1, not a bad affinity, so pick any non-reds. Ugo on our A3 has a really nice heal, plus she removes 1 random debuff along with any heal reduction debuff. So here she's going to remove some poisons for us and heal our team up a little bit. Notice that healing? Plus, we're taking the damage of the Head of Wrath without a decreased attack debuff on that head. Back to Geo 2. So here is A2 can remove buffs. So if there are any Hydra heads with buffs that you don't want them to have, you can use that A2 here to remove those buffs. Now, he does steal it if they are under HP burns. So normally if anyone's in danger of dying, it's Shamail. So if he needs to be revived, just use Syl. But for now, we're back on Geo1 and we're gonna use that A1 to keep up that decreased accuracy debuff. Achak A1 against the Head of Torment. One head down. So Ugo A2 against that decapitated head because it's not a bad affinity. So I think you guys kind of get the point. So remember, I got to turn 150 plus with this team just because of the sustain and the healing you get from Achak. Alright guys, on to everyone's gear stats and masteries, starting here with Achak. So I have him in 2 immortal sets and a broken set. And check out the levels on his gear, multiple pieces, not even level 16. And once again, I got over 150 turns with this Achak. On to his total stats. So here I have him at 47,000 health. I have the attack at 1900, defense 4600, speed 193, crit rate 39%, crit damage 128%, resist 178, and accuracy 134. Onto his masteries. So here they are not Hydra specific, but how would I change them for the Hydra? So down the offense tree, I would go War Master to get bonus damage based off enemy max HP. That would have pumped up my damage numbers a lot with Achak. And down the support tree, I would go here with lasting gifts. So we're potentially extending the duration of his buffs by 1 turn. And here Master Hexer potentially extending the duration of his debuff, that is that HP burn potentially against that Head of Suffering for 1 turn. Now, you guys can see if it's worth it or not for you because the Head of Suffering may not ever pop up. So it's up to you whether or not you want to go with that. Plus, make sure to run down the left side of the support tree here for more healing based on Achak's passive. Next up, we got Seal of the Drake. So I have her in a Relentless set and an Immortal set. Onto her total stats. So here I have her at 71,000 health. I have the attack at 1700, defense at 3000, speed 177, crit rate 38%, crit damage 148%, resist at 222, and accuracy at 259. Onto her masteries. So down the offense tree, I do have War Master on her to get bonus damage based off enemy max HP. Now down the support tree, these 3 right here, these on the left side of the support tree increase her passive healing, which is really good. Plus here on the bottom, we have Spirit Haste. So if anyone dies, she gets a speed boost. Hopefully can revive them faster. And lastly, Sniper. This is for her A1, decreased speed. Occasionally, you're going to need that, especially if someone gets swallowed up by one of the Hydra heads. You're going to want to put decreased speed on them to increase the time you have to get that person back out. Onto Shamail. I have him in 1 immortal set and 2 broken sets. Onto his total stats. So I have him at 49,000 health. I have the attack at 3,500, but as I mentioned, probably best to reduce the amount of attack, that is, reduce his overall damage. I have his defense at 1800. You can increase that for sustainability. Speed at 156. It's not super important how fast he is since this passive just works all the time to boost turn meter for the leader. Crit rate 97%, but that's way too high. As low crit rate as possible. Crit damage similar, as low crit damage as possible. Resist 142 in accuracy. You can put some accuracy into Shamail for his A1 to remove buffs, but if you don't want to do that, that's fine as well. Next up are the masteries, and they're not Hydra specific or completed, but what would I get? I would definitely go Deterrence here. So this would allow Shamail to boost even more turn meter of the leader, which is our Geo, right? Or our second Geo if the first one's out of the fight. So definitely I would pick up Deterrence here. Next up is Geo. Since they're both geared the same, I'm just going to show you one. Here I have him in a Relentless and Immortal set. I really like this combination of Relentless and Immortal. So when Geo or whoever it is procs an extra turn, they're getting healed at the same time. Onto his total stats. So here I have him at 43,000 health. I have the attack at 2400, the defense at 2400, the speed at 199, crit rate 41%, crit damage 104%, resist 169, and accuracy 310. Onto his masteries. So down the offense tree, we do have War Master, so we're getting bonus damage based off enemy max HP. And here down the support tree, we have Sniper, so we're increasing the chances of landing that A1 strong version, decrease accuracy. And Master Hexer allows us to potentially extend our debuffs by 1 turn. Next up, we got Ugo. So I have her in a Regeneration set and a Perception set. Onto her total stats. So I have her at 61,000 health. I have the attack at 1300. I have the defense at 3000, speed 190. Crit rate 43%, crit damage 93%, resistance 151, and accuracy 322. Onto our masteries. So down the offense tree, we have the tier 6 mastery here, War Master, so we're getting bonus damage based off enemy max HP. And down the support tree here, I am going Sniper to increase the chance for landing that leech on her A1. Plus here I have Master Hexer, so we're potentially extending her debuffs 1 turn. Alright guys, that is it for today. So I hope I've shown you that yes, you can use Achak against the Hydra. And if you combine it with an HP burner, in particular an AoE HP burner, he's going to be healing your team for ridiculous numbers. So thanks for watching. And if you haven't yet, like, subscribe, and share. Turn on all notifications. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.